Hi Shiva.
Yeah, hi sir.
So what are you doing today in the demo?
So today I'm going to deploy with NGINX web page in ECS using Terraform as infrastructure as a code. So as we discussed in the previous demo, so we have done a manual process. So in this demo, I'm going to do with Terraform infrastructure as a code to deploy NGINX web page. So
Okay, please go
let's.
ahead.
So this is our architectural diagram for our demo. So basically, I'm creating one VPC, virtual private cloud. So in that VPC, I have created one public subnet. So inside the subnet, I have created one Parquet, AWS Parquet, which is a virtual machine. So in that Parquet, I have deployed one Nginx web page. So to access the Nginx container, so I need connected with the Elastic Network Interface to route to the outside in the internet. So for that, I need connect to application load balancer so that it will redirect to the internet gateway. So from the internet gateway, it will reach out to the customers. Uh, so this is the bidirectional process. So this is our architectural basic diagram. So we can follow the procedure one by one. So I'm going to do the tasks. So these are the tasks I'm going to do now. So first of all, we need to create one VPC. So as we discussed in the diagram, so first of all we create one VPC. For that, and also some network components which we need to connect with VPC. So for that, that is the first step. So next we need to create one load balancer for direct to the traffic to the internet. So for that we need to create one load balancer. Next we need to create one ECS cluster because we need to deploy the web page in the container. So for that I am using ECS cluster here in this demo, and we need to give some policies permissions to the ECS cluster. So that's why I need to create ECS policies file, Terraform file, and I need to give security groups also in order to redirect to the traffic to open the firewalls. So for that I need to create security group, and finally I need to create Nginx container. So from that Nginx container, so that we can deploy the Nginx web page in the ECS cluster. So for that I need to create Nginx container and some user data in the EC2 forget. So for that I need to create one user data. So I also need some nginx.json file to configure with the nginx. So for that I need to create nginx.json file. So finally I'm going to all the variables which I need to assign with the variables.tf file. So for that I need to create one variable.tf file. So later so once we created our infrastructure, then we can execute the Terraform commands with the Terraform basic commands like Terraform init and plan apply. So later we can open the application load balancer URL, then we can access the Nginx web page from the browser. So this is the procedure I need to do now. Okay, so let's go to the task one. So this is our task one. So first of all, we need to create one VPC for our uh, service. So that I need to take so this is the AWS availability check. Okay, so for that, so basically I need to create one resource for the VPC. So the name of the VPC is AWS VPC. I can assign the CADR block, and I have given the IP range 10.0.0.0/60, and the enabled I can enable the DNS hostname, and I can give it the true. So I have already given the tags also. So for that I have configuring with the variables.tf file. So here I have just given variable.app/new VPC. So this configuration I have configured in the variable.tf file. So I'll just take another tag also, environment, that is a variable.environment. So these configurations I have configured in a variable.tf file. So this is for VPC creation. So this is for subnet. I'm going to take one subnet inside the VPC. For that I need to create one resource. So that is a resource, and the resource name is AWS subnet. So this is the name of the resource, and I need to take so here I have configured the count variable, because I need to create inside the availability queue subnet. So for that I'll just taken one data resource, that is AWS availability queue. I have taken and I have given the state is available. So just I have configured the availability queue inside the subnet. So because the subnet is placed on the availability zone, right? So that's why I have configured the uh, availability zone with the count variable. Then I need to assign the VPC. So for that I just have given the VPC ID variable. So AWS VPC, the name of the VPC, AWS VPC.id. So this is the also IP range for the AWS subnet. So that's why I have configured the CADR block. So that is CADR block variable is here. So CADR subnet and the AWS VPC dot VPC CADR block count dot index plus 4. So I have increasing with 1. Then I need to assign the availability zone with our data resource AWS availability zones dot AWS agent name of the resource name with the count.index. I can also assign with the map public IP on launch is true, so that the IP address will be appear on the output side. So I have given the tags also. The name is variable app name subnet. So and I have given the environment. So these are the common variables which I have configured everywhere. So this is our VPC and the subnet creation. So this is for AWS Internet Gateway. So in order to create connect with the outside internet, so we need to create one internet gateway. So for that I have created a resource AWS Internet Gateway. So I have named it as AWS Internet Gateway. So I need to connect with the route table. So for that I have just configured the AWS route table and route table.id. So I need to connect with the internet gateway inside the VPC. So for that the VPC ID is AWS VPC dot AWS VPC ID. So I have just given the tagging name also. These are the common variables I have just configured it. So I need to connect with the route table in order to relate to the traffic. So for that I need to connect with the resource. I have created a resource AWS route table. The name of the resource is AWS route table. So this will be connected inside the VPC, so that I need to send the VPC ID variable also. So it has the some rules to connect with the route. So for that I need to send the CADL block 0.0.0.0. It means all IP range will connect from the internet. So that's why I have given the everything is 0 IP range, so that everyone can connect with the route table. I have send with the gateway ID also from the internet gateway. So we need to connect from the internet gateway through the route table. And I have just given the tagging name also. So these are the common variable app name and environment. So I need to. So next I need to create one AWS route table association to the public subnet, so that we can enable to relate to the outside. So that's why I need to create one resource. So that is the resource AWS main route table association. The name of the resource is AWS route association. So for that I need to uh, assign it with the VPC as a on the route table to connect with the route. So our next task. So next I am going to create one load balancer because in our diagram, so application load balancer. so we can direct the traffic to the load balancer, right? So that's why I need to create one load balancer. Resource load balancer. So I have named it as main. So just I configure with the name variable where NGINX app name load balancer, and it needs to be connected with this subnet. So that's why I have configured the subnets variable AWS subnet, and the subnet name is AWS subnet.id. So this has to be connected with some security group. So for that I need to configure the security group variable. So this is name of the security group dot AWS LB load balancer dot id. I have just given the tagging name also variable dot app name LB. So in order to so we have created our AWS load balancer, and we need to create the target group also in order to connect with the resource. So for that I need to create one application load balancer target group so that it can select the group and it will redirect to the internet. So for that I need to create one resource, so that is the load balancer application load balancer target group, and I have named it as NGINX app. So I have named given the name variable, so where NGINX app name target group. So since this connects to the port, so I have assigned with port 80, that is HTTP protocol. So yeah, so I connected with the VPC inside. So for that I just taken the VPC ID variable, and it has the target IP is IP only. So I have already configuring the health check also, healthy threshold. Just I have given 3. So in case it is not healthy greater than 3, so it couldn't uh, send the traffic to the particular target group. So I just have configured the intervals as well as protocol and matching. These are the variables can configure to the target group. So I have just given tagging the name variable NGINX app application load balancer target group. So now just we created a target group, so we need to create to send the traffic. So for that I need to create one load application load balancer listener. So I have just configured with the name of the resource front end. So I'll just assign with the one variable load balancer area AWS LB. This main dot is this is the name of the AWS LB name. So AWS LB main dot ID, and I have just configured with the port number assigned variable NGINX app port, and this is the HTTP protocol only. So I have just target group is AWS LB target group NGINX app ID. I have just configured the target group from the resource AWS LB target group only. The type is a forward section, and this is the output NGINX DNS load balancer. I have just given the value variable with the AWS LB main.dns. So this is all about creation of application load balancer and application target group as well as application listener. So next I'm going to create one ECS cluster to deploy the NGINX web page in the inside the ECS cluster. So for that I'm going to create one ECS cluster resource. So now, yeah. So this is the resource AWS ECS cluster, and I have named it as AWS ECS. So I've just taken the name variable app name. So in order to connect with the cluster, I need to create one AWS Parquet. So for that, I am created one AMI, AWS AMI. So I have named it as ECS AMI. So for that, I taken the one to filter configuration with the name Amazon to Amazon ECS, and the filter another filter is architecture for the AMI ID. So this is uh, this is the variable I have configured with this is AMI override. So we need to give the AMI ID for the EC2 AWS Parquet. So for that I have configured this, and inside the local I have configured the ECS AMI. So our AWS console, it will connect to the instance from this AMI ID. So these are the local configurations like AC type T2 only. So to save the cost, I just given the T2 only at the demo. So this is chosen by the CPU by instance. So these are the options it will take from the local, and these are the chosen by the memory by instance. So these are the configuration I have just created here for the AWS ECS image in order to connect with EC2 instance. So now I need to create one IAM role to connect with the ECS cluster. So I need to give the permissions also. So for that I need to create one AWS IAM role. So this is the name of the IAM role. I have just configured the name variable app cluster run role. I have just given the assume role policy. So for that I need to take the data AWS resource from the AWS IAM policy dot document instance assume role. Next, I have just call in the AWS caller identity, because I need to identify the which resource are configuring with this. So for that I need to take in one data AWS caller identity. So the identity, the state of the is current only. So this is the another policy document we need to mention here. So that's it's like a JSON file we have seen like in our AWS console under the policy action like statement and resources. So that's who configured the statement and action EC2 only and ECR to access the ECR repository. And also the statement again for the ECS statement is this is the resource from the AWS console, like the ARN and AWS ECS. This is the region to the assigned with the region, and also we need to identify our data caller also. For that that is the AWS caller identity dot current ID account ID, and they have just given the app name. So in order to connect with the ECS cluster policy, I'll just create one resource AWS ECS cluster runner policy, and have configured with the name variable. So cluster runner policy I have just given the name, and the role is AWS IAM role ECS cluster runner role dot name. So this policy I need to attach with here. So this is the policy document I have created before. Like this is AWS IAM policy document. So I need to attach for the role so that it can execute without any. So I have just configured the policy.json to the AWS IAM role. So next I have created one AWS IAM instance profile. Yeah, that name of the profile is ECS cluster runner profile. So I have just configured with the name and the role. These are the common configuration I have just given here. So for the template file user data, I have in the EC2 AWS Parquet. So I have created one data resource, the template file. So this is the path of the module file under the name of the cluster user data as such. I have given the variable cluster name. So ECS cluster dot AWS ECS name. So finally, I need to create one instance from the local ECS AMI image. So for that, I have created one resource AWS instance. The name of the instance is ECS cluster runner. So from the AMI, we can connect to the local, and it will connected from the local ECS AMI. So the instance type is I have configured with variable.tf. So I have just given the variable.cluster type, and the name of the subnet ID. We need to connect with the subnet ID also to the instance. For that I have just configured the AWS subnet.id. So in order to connect with the EC2, we need security group also. So I have just configured with variable VPC security group ID dot ECS cluster. So we need to enable the public IP address. So for that, associate public IP address are equal to true only. And we need to give the key pair also. For that, I need to assign it with the variable dot AWS key pair name. So here before we have created one user data cluster, right? A template file. So we need to assign this AWS instance. For that, I need to assign the user data variable with the data template file cluster only. So I have configured with the count to task also here. So just I have configured this one, and I have given the tags like name, environment, the role of the is this cluster. So these are the common variables I have just configured here. So I need to create a security group to open the firewall from the ECS cluster to connect with the uh, application root panel. So for that, I need to create a AWS security group resource. The name of the resource ECS cluster host, and I have given the name with the variable app name and ECS cluster host. So I need to assign with the VPC inside. So for that, I given the VPC ID variable, and I have given the tags also. So these are the common variables everywhere I have configured it. So this is for ECS cluster host, and I need to assign the security group rule for the ECS cluster host to SSH port number 22. So for that, I have just created another resource for the specific SSH host. So I have I need to connect with the subnet ID. So in order to connect with subnet ID, I have just configured the security group ID variable dot ECS cluster host. So this one. So it means the description. So it when connected to admin has SSH access to the ECS cluster. To connect with the ECS cluster, we need to open the inbound room. So this is the port number 22 from port to 22, and the protocol is TCP1. So this is the CID block. From this admin sources, we connect to the SSH from the SSH to the ECS cluster. And I have given other resource security group rule for the ECS cluster egress. So this is for outbound. So I have just created another resource for the outbound rule. I have configured with the port 0 to 0. So it means all IP ranges can connect from the instance to the image. So the CID block is 0.0.0. So it means so everyone can connect to the instance from the outside. I have just configured the output. So this is the ECS cluster IP. So we can finally we can check with this IP and at the bottom of this demo. So we'll just configure with the ECS cluster with the public IP. So that is all about our ECS cluster creation and the policies we need to configure with each one. Next, I am going to create the ECS policies. So for that, I need to take one data resource from the AWS IAM policy document, and I have named it as instance assume role. So it's like a JSON file. You need to give the action to access to the IAM policy. So for that, I just given action assume role, and the type is service type. So I need to assign the identifier variable with EC2 Amazon.ams. So next I need to create one role for this ECS instance role. So I have just created the resource AWS IAM role with the ECS instance role name, and I have just given the name variable with where app name ECS instance role only. So here I am assigned with the AWS assume role policy. So for that, I am taking the data resource AWS IAM policy document, and instance, the name of the instance is instance assume role.json. I have just given the JSON to this role for the particular role. Next, I have created one AWS policy attachment in order to attach this policy to the role for this role. So I have just created ECS instance role name, and the role name I have configured with the AWS IAM role and the ECS instance role .name, and we need to give the policy ARN also. So for that I am taking from the AWS ARN AWS IAM as the AWS policy service. So this is the name of the policy name, the Imagine EC2 container service for EC2 role to connect with the EC2 task. So that's why I have configured this one. So finally I have created a resource for the instance profile also, ECS instance role. I have named it as instance role, and just I have configured the name and role for this resource. So this is for another task execution purpose. I have just created one data resource for the task execution, and I named it as a task assume role. So before we created one ECS instance role, now I created for the task for the EC2 to connect the access the for that I created one policy document. Same as we discussed previous resource, same we can follow here only. So actions the assume role and the type is service only. So identifier is ECS tasks measure. So because in order to create a task in the ECS, so previous we can connect with the EC2. Okay, ECS EC2 task. Yeah, EC2 Amazon.com. Here ECS task. So let's create another IAM role for the ECS task execution role name, and I have named with the variable app name ECS task execution role. I need to assign with the policy for this ECS task execution role. So that's why I have configured the policy with the IAM role. So this is the policy data.aws policy document assumption role.json. So at last, I need to attach the policy document to this particular this is task execution role. So for that, I have given the role and as well as the policy. The policy name is a major ECS task execution role policy. I need to attach with this ECS task execution. So for that, I created one resource. I have configured this as well. So these are the ECS policies. So in order to connect with the cluster and as well as to the EC2 to execute permissions policies with the JSON file. Yeah. So okay, I think yeah. Next, we need to create a security group. So whatever we have created above, we need to open the firewalls in order to connect with the other source. So let's create the security groups as well. Yeah. So I have created AWS load balancer. So for that I need open firewall. So from you need to connect to the AWS load balancer. So I have just given the name AWS load balancer, and I have configured the name variable where NGINX app name and load balancer. So this is the AWS application load balancer security group. So you need to connect with VPC as well as. So this is for inbound route, the protocol TCP. So from port, so this is the port NGINX app port. We have configured the 80 NGINX port. So from this port we can connect to the AWS load balancer only, not from the anywhere. From port to port is the same NGINX app port and the CRW. So this from the app sources we can connect to the NGINX. So this is for outbound door. So -1. So it means uh, any IP address can access this machine. So all IP address can access. So for that I have configured with the CIDR blocks with 0.0.0.0/0. It means all IP address can access this from the internet. So I have given the tag name also, the load balancer with the NGINX app name. So this is for our load balancer. So in order to connect to the ECS from the ALB only, right? So first I have created for the ALB. Now I need to connect with the ECS cluster from the ALB only. So for that I need to create one resource for the AWS ECS, and I have configured with the name ECS task, and it is the description is allow inbound access from the application load balancer only, not from the outside everyone. So just configured with VPC. So this is for inbound role. So I have just connected inbound access from the ALB NGINX app port only, which we have configured before in this application load balancer resource. And the outbound is same as the you can connect to the outside. Whatever you connected inside, so you can connect to the outside. So for that I'm just giving the from port to port 0. So it means so that is about security groups. Next, I am going to create our NGINX container service. For that, in order to deploy our NGINX web page, so we need to create one NGINX image, and from the NGINX image, we need to create a container. So, you need the container will deploy to the ECS container service. Yeah, so have taken the data resource for the NGINX app with the NGINX app name, and the template file we have configured with nginx.json. So this is another file we have configured under the root for path module /nginx.json. So these are the variables I have just given. The app name is NGINX app name, and image you can take from the app image from the Docker Hub or the anything, or you can create your own. So I have just given the app name from the Docker Hub, and I assigned it with the port number also. So this will be running on the AWS Forget. I have just configured the CPU as well as memory, variable NGINX Forget CPU and variable NGINX Forget memory, and I have mentioned the region also, in which region you have to run your NGINX app. So for that I have taken the variables and assigned with a particular region, image, and as well as all things. So this is about our NGINX app container file. So in order to connect with our app, you need to create one resource, AWS ECS task definition. So inside you need to configure all the task definitions like container name and image, and you need to mention the CPU as well as memory. So I have just configured the everything inside, and I need to give the port mapping also. So from the connect to the our NGINX app, I have just configured the 80, and the host port also I have just given the 80, so it should match, otherwise you can't connect to the NGINX app. So this is the task definitions inside the NGINX app. So for that I created one resource, and I configured the as usual. So we need to create one ECS service on the AWS. So for that I have created one resource, AWS resource. I have named it NGINX app, and the cluster name is AWS ECS cluster, and AWS ECS.id, the name of the AWS ECS cluster name. And we need to assign with the task definition. So this is the AWS ECS task definition part NGINX app name, and the desired count is I have configured with the variable NGINX app only. So the launch type is Fargate. So this is the our VM. You can configure with like a EC2 like that. So I have configured with the Fargate, and the network configuration which must be included because it is connected to the like security group and subnet and public IP. So for that I have given the under network configuration. The security group is ECS task ID security group, and it needs to be connected to the subnet. Sorry, and it needs to be enabled the public IP. So I just given the true value to the as a public IP variable, and for the load balancer I've just given the target group AWS ALB target group NGINX app ID, and given that this is the container name and the port we have assigned with the Nginx app port as well as name. So it depends on the AWS LB listener. So it will, the traffic will goes to the AWS listener. So from that listener, it will send to the traffic to the AWS target group. So that's why it depends on it. So first of all, before going to the target group, so it will first listen on port number from the front end. So just I have configured depends on, and I have given the name tag name with Nginx ECS for the Nginx app. So finally, we need to create one cluster user data to connect, connect with the AWS Packet. So for that, I've just given the script slash slash bin slash bash. So if this condition, then it will goes into grep -q file system. Then it will create one uh, folder under the dev nvm l11. So the last one is we need to create one JSON file. So for the Nginx, so I have just configured the JSON file like name, what is the name of the app, and what is the image and the CPU as well as the memory under the network mode. So it should be there under the network mode. So you just mention here, and the port mapping also for the Nginx app, and I have given the container port as well as the host port, and these are the variables which I have configured this for the nginx.json. So this is our last file. I have just configured the variables in the previous. I have just given under the variable section. We need to AWS region. I have default created with the US East one, and the app name is I have configured with my Nginx app. And for the app environment, I have just given the staging, like a staging. You can give like staging dev or a QA or production. For that, I just given the staging app name. And the key pair name is I have given with the default AWS key. With the admin sources variable, I have just configured with anything 0.0.0. So it means IP, all IP range connected to the instance. And the app for the app sources CID here, I'll just giving the same similar way like all IPs can connect. So for the cluster runner type, I'll just giving the T3 medium instance type for the ECS cluster run type. And for the cluster count, same I have given the one, so you can give as per your requirement. So for the sake of demo, I'll just given the one only. So finally, we need to mention the Nginx app name, and I have given the Nginx default name to the variable. And the Nginx app image, I have given the Nginx Alpine image to the variable. And for the port also, I'll just mention the 80 port, so it will connect to inside the container from the 80. And for the Nginx app count, I have just given the two containers inside the AWS bucket. And the CPU I have configured with 1024. So it's for demo, like, so for demo purpose, I'll just given the list of 1024 CPU as well as memories 2048 have given the default options only. So we have created our VPC as well as the network components like internet gateway, subnets, and route table. And next we have created our load balancer to connect to the traffic. For that we have created a load balancer, and we can assign as the load balancer target group as well as the load balancer listener. And next we have created our ECS cluster. So inside the ECS cluster, we have created the all the policies and assigned with the policies with the particular tasks only. So and the created ECS policies also for the role ECS execution purposes, and we have created a security groups in order to open the ports to connect with the load balancer and VPC. And finally, we created one NGINX app container. So to create to deploy the NGINX page, we need to created one NGINX app and image from and converts into content. And we have created one user data on the AWS Fargate, and we have created even nginx.json file to configure with app name and image name and all those options. And finally, we have created one variable.tf file. So under that TF file, we have configured all the variables which we have given inside the all the files. So just configured here. So now we can execute our Terraform infrastructure. So the code in my local. So let's go to our command prompt. So so just change to the whatever your files configured in the local. So just give that path folder path of the your files where you saved all those files and the folder name. Okay, so for that so I have created one folder and yeah, so this is my folder NGINX ECS. So just taken this path. So where you have configured your all files in the location of the path. So here you need to change to the directory to your current path, and then so now just give Terraform that it can so it can initialize all the resources to be ready to execute. Enter. Now it is initializing the resources in the backend to execute further. Now the Terraform has been successfully initialized. So next we need to execute the plan so that whatever we have configured the resources so that it will added to the AWS service. So for that we need to execute Terraform plan. Enter. So whatever the service resources we have configured, so it will all the services are created the configurations to be. Now we can apply our with the Terraform. Almost 31 resources are added to execute to be ready to execute. So let's apply the Terraform command. Terraform apply. Enter. Now whatever the configurations are added so that all the resources are now changed to the executed in the backend. So let's give yes. So the 31 resources are creating in our AWS console with this command. So all the resources are creating like security groups and subnets, VPC, cluster, and application load balancer. Everything is creating. So it will take time to create all the resources. So the resources are creating on the AWS console. So let us wait a few minutes to create everything. So once the infrastructure is created, we can verify with the application load balancer URL whether we can able to access the NGINX page or not. Okay, so our resources are created and yeah, zero change and zero destroy. So this is our cluster IP, and this is our NGINX load balancer, ELB load balancer, the URL. So let's take okay. Let's verify our resources are created in our AWS console. Go to AWS console. Okay. I think root user.
What happened? Any internet connection issue?
Yeah, no. I think IAM user. Something. Yeah, cloud user. Okay.
Okay.
I'm logging with my IAM user.
Mhm. The earlier one was root account.
Mm-hmm. I think I signed out previously. Okay, let's go to our VPC. will check, will verify. So this is yes, North Virginia
You're
region.
saying the components created by Terraform script.
Yeah, yes. So this is my VPC, NGINX app VPC. Okay, let's go to the subnets. So I have created the subnets 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 subnets, as well as route tables. So this is our my NGINX app VPC. Yeah, internet gateway, NGINX app internet gateway. So let's go to our EC2 also. So yeah, my NGINX app is running. So it is in the T3 medium. Okay. So let's take this ELB URL. To verify first. Stand. Yeah, it is showing our default NGINX web page within the ECS. Okay, let's go to our ECS also. We will verify the container container services. Yeah, this is our NGINX app container. Uh, so our NGINX service is status is active. Okay. Yeah, it is running only. So this is we can configure the similar. We can configure with another websites in the similar task only. So this is for just Nginx web page. We can deploy Nginx web page in ACR ECS container service using infrastructure as a code. Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all right.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. Yeah, check this URL. I just giving.
Copy it here. Yes, I'll do that. Good, it's appearing.
Okay.
Okay, good. That's fine. Yeah, I'll stop recording. It's a very good
Let's
demo. Explanation is very good. Your scripting, explanation, all those.